Never try to be better than someone else. Always learn from others. And never cease trying to be the best you could be. That's under your control.
Anybody can be a coach, and a good coach can coach anything.
This kid's gonna be the best kid in the world. This kid's gonna be somebody better than anybody ever knew.
The mindset of a coach can belong to anyone.
And when you get to the point where all you want to do is be successful, as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful. Pain is temporary.
They ask me why I teach, and I reply, where could I find such splendid company?
Welcome to the Coaching Mindset Podcast. This is episode 3 with Liam O'Neill, the Prove It guy.
And Gary Wallace from Core NI. Today we are going to talk about failure.
And how failure is a good thing.
Yes, very much so. So I suppose the topic came up just from me. Actually, I was writing my article and it just came across. I was listening to a podcast. And
who's your article with?
The Ulster Herald.
The Ulster Herald. You read an article?
Yes, I read a weekly article.
A weekly article?
A weekly article with Ulster Herald. So you could try and get in that. Again, it's all about nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, but about what we talk on here as well too. But it's good to get our two opinions on it.
Yeah,
that's the good thing of this. But anyway, back to failure. I was listening to a podcast and it was about trying to get the optimum from everything that you do. And there was a lady on it. She's a multi-millionaire now. Runs Spanks, which is like the leggings that ladies wear. So
the holding pants.
Yeah, whatever they are. But anyway, she makes a lot of money. But in her memoirs, she was talking about how much she, used to feel, and eventually this idea just took her where she wanted to go. So she got this idea, took her where she wanted to go, but she always says, like, why, someone asked her, why were you always so resilient? What made you just keep going and going and going? And she said it came from a question her dad used to ask her, like, once a week at the dinner table. And the question was, what did you feel at this week? So from that, what she took was, at the start, she said she was a wee bit apprehensive and go, well, what does he mean? Did I do something wrong or something like that? But what he was actually trying to do was teach her that it's okay to fail. As long as you can kind of think about your failure and come up with a solution so that you never give up, and then you try and do something better the next time, or you might have to mix it up a wee bit, or you might have to try and go down a different path. So that was what kind of got me thinking about this week's episode as well.
So our question today then is for everyone that's listening to ask themselves and the people around them, what did they fail at today? So what did you fail at today that you could learn from and improve on? I would always, whenever chatting to people, claim I fail nothing. I never fail anything. And it's not because I'm amazing at everything, but it's because I learn from everything that goes wrong. So anything that doesn't work out for me in my business, or when I'm working with a client, or when I'm training or anything, I analyse it. I work out why did that not happen. So it's only a failure to me if you don't do anything about it, or if you don't progress from it. If you fail, but you can work out why it didn't work. Like if a sporting failure happens, like, why did that happen? Were you injured that day? Were you not focused that day? So then what could you do better? Could you rehab better? Could you practice focusing drills so that you're in a better position to go and develop your sport? Or when it comes to anything, really, whenever you're making a smoothie and it's horrible, we talked about this one day, that's technically a failure. Like, you want to have a wee nice smoothie and it's rotten. So what happened? What did you add to that to make it not so nice? So if you learn from failure, then to me it's not really, you haven't really failed, I don't think.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think that some people there are maybe afraid to say that they failed. So because what they'll do is they'll blame somebody else or something else. I used an example in the article, and it was, if you plan to go for a gym session and you turn around and you didn't make it because maybe you had to look after the kids or something else came up. But the first step is actually admitting, no, I failed. I had planned to go to the gym, but I failed. And it wasn't the fact that somebody had let you down or you couldn't get the kids looked after. It was still a failure. Not to say, right, that's it, you're the worst. It's to go, right, I failed at that. How can I make that better? If this is someone that's going to be using this example of missing the gym because you have to look after the kids, maybe, son, you have to think about, well, I need to invest in a kettlebell or a dumbbell that I can do it at home.
Yeah.
Because the kids are always going to be there. Maybe it crops up that they come home with so much homework that you can't go to the gym. They need to get that done. So instead you do your workout after they've gone to bed. So even though you said to yourself, look, you know, I'm going to get a workout done this day. Now, if you get to the gym, fantastic. But if you don't, you've got option number 2. So in essence, then you've learned from your failure, and then you can move on.
You could even incorporate your children into your exercise, so make it more play, like do animal movements, play around, move. So then they're developing themselves as well. So what was a failure now becomes something amazing, that you're creating better, stronger, healthier children whilst getting to engage with them and bond with them a wee bit more, because you're getting to do something. Whereas you could have huffed and complained that you didn't make it, and then got angry, and then got annoyed, and then when your spouse comes home you get annoyed at them, and the failure just escalates. I think once you take ownership, like you were saying, you have to admit you failed. So taking ownership of your own failure will give you a better, stronger understanding of how you live your life. Because if you take ownership, then something as simple as if you want to go to the gym and your car doesn't work, you could still make it to the gym. You could go for a jog to the gym, or you could just walk to the gym. But if you just accept failure and blame other people, then you'll just blame the car, and then you'll not do anything because I'll just not do that because that didn't work out. You get a lot with eating when people go on a diet. I'm not a fan of diets. I don't believe that they work. But whenever people go on a diet, then they get injured. So they're training and they're on a diet, and then they get an injury. So then because they're injured, they go, oh, I'll just forget about the diet. Even though diet's like more important than exercise, you could become healthy without doing a single bit of exercise by just controlling your diet. Obviously exercise is going to be better for you, but if you didn't do any exercise but you controlled your diet, you would become a lot healthier. But if you exercised all the time but you had a terrible diet, that wouldn't necessarily work out the same way. So taking ownership of what's going on, taking ownership of your failure is going to help you progress and move on, and then feel less or feel better.
Yeah, that was even when I was writing it, and that's the steps I was thinking about is identify your failure, take ownership from it, learn from it, and then finally then what you'll find yourself doing is taking more risks, because you're not afraid to fail. You know, I think even from my own example there most recently was I finally decided that, okay, I'm leaving full-time employment. I'm now fully self-employed. It's just me, and it was a risk, especially this time of the year. You know, I could have very easily said, no, I'll wait till the new year. I'll get Christmas over. I've got the paycheck coming in. But it's something I knew that I wanted to do. And the way I looked at it was, if I take the risk now and I'm ahead, then when it comes to January, then I know that I can have my programs up and running. I know that I have the time now to spend them, to develop them, so that they can be right. And it was a risk. And then the other thing I asked myself is, what's the worst thing that can happen? If this fails, what is the worst thing? Now, for me, I'm very lucky. I have a safety net, and I've got a great family. Yeah. And that's what I said. If I lose the mortgage in the house, I have to move out. I have to move maybe back with my parents or move in somewhere else. That is the worst situation. But really, how bad is that? Yeah. You know, if I dwell in it and if I think, oh, this is really bad, I'm so hard but done by. It's not actually.
It could be worse.
It could be a lot worse. So it's like, take that risk, take that calculated risk, you know, and then even if you do feel you're more prepared for it, and you go, right, this isn't going to stop me because I've done this before. Now I'm going to move on to the next.
I think that a lot of people stay in jobs and things because they have security, like you're saying, they have the paycheck coming in. To me, that is a failure if you're not living the life. Like, we only live once, and if you want to be something else, but you're not doing that because you have a steady paycheck. I did the same about 8 years ago. I was working in the pubs, and I was making good money, and it was handy. Like, I was good at my job, and I know I could still be there, and I know I could have progressed in that job, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And when I went to quit, everyone said it to me, but you're lucky to have a job, you've got money coming in. But to me, every single morning I woke up and went and did that job, I was failing at life. Like, I know that's a bit dramatic, but that's not how I wanted my life to go. It's not what I wanted to be doing. I wasn't inspired. I wasn't focused. I wasn't motivated to do any of it. So to me, I was feeling every day. I was good at my job and I put a lot into what I was doing when I was working. But at the end of the day, if I stayed there and then I look back when I'm 50 and think, what did I do? Like I wanted to be a martial arts instructor. I wanted to do this, whatever I wanted to do. If I didn't do any of that, but I stayed in my what they call comfortable. Like it's easy to be comfortable. It's hard to like take a risk, but the risk is worth it. You can always get another job, I think. Like
Yeah,
in anything.
I think it is that it's accepting failure, you know, and again it's failure in life at anything. It's job, it's relationships, it's family, it's friends. Yeah, I think that's, you know, you said at the start that, you know, you don't feel, but you've already got yourself into that mindset where you can move straight away on to the next one.
Yeah.
Where it's other people can't even embrace that failure. You know, I've done it myself as well. You know, where I had to take ownership for a lot of stuff. It was easier to blame other people.
Yeah.
In any situation, but you know, I had to take ownership for that failure, whatever it was, and in any situation in life, you do have to step up to that. And even when you go back to coaching, simple failure may be like losing a game. And I heard this the other day from one of the coaches. They were on about whenever they were, if you're 3 or 4-0 down in a game, for example, and there's 5 minutes left. What that coach does, instead of kind of panicking or worrying or still trying to get them on, he accepts, right, we've failed. But his next phase during the game, even maybe a few minutes left, to step back, you know, take himself away and just say, right, well, how am I now going to talk to these players? Because they're in their most vulnerable state. They've just got beat 4-0. They've got thrashed. We've tried to do everything we did in training the week before, and it hasn't worked. So now I have to go into this change room, and what's the best thing I can say? Because that's probably that whenever you go back into the change room, or even if you're working with a client and you know they haven't hit their target, that is their most vulnerable time. So you have to practice that as a coach in whatever field. If you do not practice that, it's the same as teaching somebody how to squat and how to do that. You practice and you get better at the teaching technique and the cues. But if you don't practice how to deal with failure or how to help other people deal with failure, then it can have a massive negative effect on them as they move forward.
We've been saying from the start of this podcast that anybody's a coach. Like, so a parent's a coach. So even like I know we sort of went into gym related, but if your kid's coming home and they didn't get the part in the play that they wanted, or they failed an exam, or they failed a spelling test, or something that to you would be minimal, but to them could be devastating. If you haven't taught them how to deal with failure, like if they don't get the part in the play, maybe they didn't practice enough, and you could reword what happened so that they understand, well, maybe if I practice and learned a wee bit more about myself and how to deliver myself, then that would get me the play. Maybe the exam, maybe they didn't study. Or maybe they studied so much that they panicked about it, so you need to teach them how to deal with failure. So what did you learn from that? You learned that you were so focused on what you were doing and studying so much that you started to panic and started to forget everything because you were trying to learn everything so fast. So then you're able to, because you understand that failure isn't a full stop, failure is just a break in the sentence, you're able to teach them to look at it, learn from what they did, and move on. So that can go for anyone, like colleagues that you work with that don't meet a deadline, just everyone in general. We've both said it, like everybody's coaching everybody. We just, if you know one thing more than I know, you can teach me, so you can coach me in that. So doing that not only will affect your own life whenever you understand how to move on from failure, but it will start to ripple effect the people like all around you.
Yeah, I think it's a very important point you made, especially with kids, is we kind of live in some kids and some, we do it all the time. We protect our kids, and we think we protect them from failure, and it's probably the worst thing we could do for them. You know, rather than saying, go out and try that, climb that to whatever height you want, you know, climb until a safe enough height, but don't go, oh, that could happen. No, let them try themselves. It was funny even when we were away with one of the squads there in the Euros with under 17s, and we have a fantastic gifted footballer, But when he's grown up here, he was told he was brilliant. He was, you really, and he deserved that praise. He really deserved that. But when we started, then he goes across the water and he's playing now for a Premiership club, and he comes and represents his country in the Euros, and they're playing against big teams like Belgium and Poland. During the game, he couldn't accept the failure. He actually asked to be taken off the pitch because he was playing so poor, and he just got so frustrated. Now again, there could be another lot of other stuff linked with that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's kind of an example of, well, he's never really been in that position where you've been told, you're going to have to roll your sleeves up here.
Yeah.
Your talent isn't going to get you everything. You're really going to have to go on. And maybe that could be a time when he wasn't really in that position, where even when we used to play, when he was in the squads and the team was playing really poor, he always seemed to play really well. He just had that talent and that determination. But when it did get to the point of, okay, well, I'm kind of feeling here, his attitude in that fight or flight,
Yeah.
his was kind of, well, I need to get out of here.
It's because people aren't used to it. Like, even when, like, I've worked in judging different competitions and been in different competitions, and people get like participation awards and awards for showing up and awards for everything. So you're handed, you might have 3 students and 2 of them have trained flat out, and they go in and they compete, and one gets a gold and one gets a silver, and they get this awards and stuff, and they feel they've earned that, and then they meet the third guy that didn't do any training, just showed up and jumped in the competition, and he's got a wee award for just showing up, and he gets a wee spirit award and things like that. So you're not teaching them any, there's no difference. The guy that tried really hard doesn't feel any different from the guy that didn't do a wild pile. So I think we're babying young people so much now that when they go into the real world then and they ask for a job and you tell them, well, you're not qualified for this, they be thinking, well, they deserve it, because that's what they've been taught when they go and compete in sports or sports days and everyone's just handed a medal. They should know that you're going to lose, but what are you going to do about that? If you lose, are you going to sit and cry about it, or are you going to, like Eric Thomas would say, don't cry to quit, cry to keep going? So yes, you can cry about it, but learn from that and then move on. Use that as fuel. So I think that you're right in saying that everyone's sort of babied and mothered, that they should be out, like we're back to climbing trees again, but they should be out climbing trees, and they should be out falling over and hurting themselves, like grazing themselves, and noticing that, it's not that bad. Like, I grew up, part where we grew up, like, we just fought all the time. So then whenever I started martial arts, the first time I remember, with first day moving over to England, training with a world champion kickboxer, and he did a spinning heel kick and caught me in the back of the head, and the whole class stopped. But I was so used to fighting and stuff that I thought something else had happened in the class, so I looked for that, and the instructor came over and told me to have a wee seat, and I sat down, and I was like, what are we doing? And he was like, oh, you need a wee rest, you've been kicked in the head. And I was like, but don't worry about it, I'm fine, I'll just hammer on. So eventually I convinced him to let me get back on, and then we were moving around and another kid get hit, like a wee punch in the mouth, which you're doing kickboxing, you're going to get hit. And he sat down then, maybe sat out for about 25 minutes to recover, and you're thinking, what are you going to do whenever you put him in a ring? And someone, like, you don't get hit half as hard in training as you do in a competitive sport. So I think, what's going to happen when he gets hit for the first time? Like, he's going to think he gets shot or something. Yeah, no, I know it's that fine line, especially whenever we are coaching and or even your own family, your own kids. Of a lot of the schools when I was in teaching, as soon as there was a fall or a bang, it was straight away for an ice pack. Yeah. Now, I'm not a massive fan, but I do see it's kind of, they need to protect themselves too, the teachers, because that kid could go on, which I'm fine about. But when a kid falls, it's a failure. It's your reaction. Now, what I would normally do is, if a kid falls when they're playing with me, it's like, oh, they get up, and you got up straight away. You are so strong. Show me your muscles. And they will maybe have tears in their eyes, but they will be flexing, and they just feel that sense of, well, no, you know what? That wasn't too bad. Yeah. Whereas if you go the other way, and I've seen teachers doing it, and it's not their own fault, they have a caring nature about them. As soon as they fall, they're straight over.
"Oh, are you okay? That looked really bad." And there, the kid's reaction goes, "Yeah, it was. I'm really sad." And
Yeah.
what did they learn from even that fall? Whereas you teach them, okay, look, I know that's sore, but you're so brave. You got up straight away. You can do that. And then the other thing too is just clicked into my head when you mentioned about the participation. We brought a thing in when we were coaching the kids. It was a Player of the Week sticker. Something really simple.
Yeah.
But I used to come with a big sheet of them. Made I had about 40 on it, and still only give one out per session.
Yeah.
And the kids are like, "Oh, I never get it. I don't get it." Well, this is why I give it out. I give it out for, you don't have to be the best. You be a good listener, and you just go in and you're trying. And here's what Johnny did today.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm giving it to him. Now, if you come back next week and do something like that, then yes, you have a chance of getting a sticker. Rather than going, "Well done, kids, here's a sticker each." They actually said Player of the Week on them, which was good because it gives that, it could do two things. The kid who actually did the good practice and did things well, go, right, well, I got rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And the kid who didn't, going, right, well, I want that reward.
Yeah.
So what do I have to do?
And you're teaching them how to improve what they're doing. The kid crying thing, I would be a firm believer in that as well. Like, I would, even if a kid falls, I would have a habit of even lifting them and telling them to well done and move on. That was really good. I might even like talk to them about how great their fall was.
Yeah,
because they do learn. Like, I've went to lots of different schools and worked with different kids, and the parents or the teacher will say, "Oh, Johnny's always like that. He always cries," and then he falls, and they're like, "Oh, here we go." And you pick him up and you praise him for his fall or praise him for how fast he got up or whatever, and he runs on, and they go, "How'd you do that?" You're going, "I just didn't acknowledge the pain or the fall." And what I do, we'd call it pattern interrupt. So their pattern is they fall over, they cry, they get attention. So they fall over, you give them attention before they get a chance to cry, and you don't acknowledge the pain or the crying. So then they move on. I would use it for even kids eating vegetables. We've talked about this before. The kid goes to eat a vegetable, and you say something like, "Eat your vegetables, you have to eat this, so you're not leaving the table to eat your vegetables." So it's a pattern. The child doesn't want vegetables because they've learned that, because a lot of parents don't eat them, or they've put emphasis on the fact that vegetables are terrible. It's going to be bad for you to eat these. It'll be healthy for you, but it'll be bad. You'll not like it. So if you put them down and you say, like, say wee Johnny wants to be a footballer, and you say, "You want to be a footballer, Johnny?" And he's agreeing, and you put the food down, you're like, "I made you a dinner that's going to make you the best footballer. This is the dinner Ronaldo makes, and it's got all the stuff that you need." You never even mention the vegetables or that they're going to be bad. So that's a different pattern. So it's a new thought pattern whenever they go to eat. So that's what you're essentially doing whenever you go over and tell them to flex and talk about their muscles and how brave they are or whatever. You're changing the normal loop of, "God, this was sore, and then that was sore, and then they made it look like it was sore." Whereas you're changing that into, "This was, how long? They haven't had a chance to even get to the sore bit. You're running and flexing at them."
It is. It's like, as we said, even going back to, it's the same thing as a coach who has a senior team who have lost, or you have somebody in the gym, or if it's a family, it's that instant. What can you do at that moment when the people have failed? As a coach, as a person, as a human being, what's your best thing you can do? Because it can go one or two ways. That's what I always say to when I'm taking coaches, and coaching experience is either two things. It's a positive or it's a negative. You can never have a neutral.
Yeah.
So if you go and you feel your next response, either from yourself or from somebody else who's guiding you or giving you advice, it's going to go two ways. It's going to be a positive response or a negative response. And that's why I feel that it's something that we still need to practice. We need to practice for ourselves, and we need to practice to teach and help other people, because that's really what we do. We want to help, we want to guide people, and we want them from that to learn from them. If you get those three things as a coach, as a husband, as a wife, as a sister, a brother, or whatever, a parent, that's huge.
Yeah. You made a good point the other day whenever we were chatting. You said that you coming in as a coach, your bad day can create a bad month, a bad year, a bad experience for whoever you're coming in and coaching for. You take out your bad day on the people that you're coaching, then they have a bad experience with their coach. It's not like they just have a bad day and they understand the coach is a bad day. Same as a adults, children, whatever, you give them a bad session because you're taking your personal life in because you failed at something or you were late or whatever, and you haven't dealt with that yourself, then you can end up causing, again, a ripple effect that might turn that kid off the sport. It might turn them off all sport altogether because they think all coaches are going to be the same. They don't like them. It might stop the person that's trying to lose weight because you've reacted badly to their failure of not losing a pound or whatever it is that whatever it is that they were trying to do. So I think that's a very good point, that if you practice yourself on dealing with failure, then it's much easier for you to switch that off, and whenever you go into your work or you go to deal with your children or whoever it is, and give them a better experience, or to even just teach them from example, teach them what it's like to fail and where you can go from there. Thanks guys for listening to the third episode of our Coaching Mindset podcast. And remember, our question for you today is, what did you fail at?
Yeah guys, thanks for listening, and thanks for listening to the previous episodes. A reminder, each episode will go up every Thursday at 6 p.m.